buzzing outside, isn't it?
Yeah, we're really excited. We've got about 400 people out there. We've got 1,500 people coming to our dinner tonight. So it really feels like Hong Kong's back in business, and it's great to be part of that.
How's business?
So from an LME perspective, we're reasonably optimistic. April was a good volume month for us, probably best volume month for well over a year. And I think more broadly, sort of talking to delegates outside, there's a lot of interest in base metals. People still trying to figure out where it's going to go, these macroeconomic, geopolitical questions which sort of weigh on both sides of pricing. Yeah. But in many ways, that's a good place to be, because it means people want to hedge, they want to express an opinion, and that's obviously all great for the exchange and our community.
Right, and just since you mentioned it, Asia hours are back, obviously, right? What sort of volumes are you seeing there?
Yeah, so this is for nickel. Obviously, for our other metals, we've had Asian hours continuously, but 27th of March, we reopened Asian hours trading for nickel after the nickel events of March last year. We're really pleased about that. It's just nice to wake up in London, turn on my screen and see that there have been 500, 600 lots of nickel traded. And I think that's really indicative of how important this time zone, this geography is to our contracts. And we're really pleased about that. And actually, if I look at nickel generally, April, which is our first month with the Asian hours reopened, volumes, full month, outright volumes up 10% on the prior month, 60% on the prior year. Obviously, that was just after the events of March. But it feels to me like we're building back.
What was pre-pandemic Asia hours nickel, just for context, I guess? So it's 500, 600?
So you'd normally see over 1,000 pre-pandemic. So not back there yet, and not back there yet with the entire contract. But it's this process of rebuilding trust.
Well, I was going to get to that reputation. Do you think you've managed to salvage that completely? That's an abstract concept, obviously. Where are you on that conversation?
No, we're very conscious that trust is something that takes a long time to build or to rebuild. But I would like to think that our market believes we're doing the right things here. So, for example, the immediate steps that we took when we reopened nickel trading last year, be that the daily price limits, be that the OTC position disclosure, so that we at the exchange can have a better view of risk, so that we can be more confident that the events that we saw last year couldn't happen again, through to the commissioning of Oliver Wyman to do this comprehensive piece of work, and then the action plan that we published back in March of this year, which really commits us to a very aggressive 2-year program of market improvement, and then whether we can deliver on that, and I'm confident that we can. So trust doesn't arise overnight, but I really hope people feel that we are doing the right things to strengthen this market.
Yeah, and some of the guardrails that you put in place last year, I mean, several components to that. I want to start with OTC sort of transparency. How has that been received, over-the-counter sort of positions?
Yeah, so there's always going to be a tension here, because understandably banks don't want to reveal their OTC books. But I think there was a real feeling after March 2022 that as a community we needed to come together to stop this kind of thing happening again. And that's why we put in place the OTC reporting requirements. And I think people have taken them in the spirit that they're intended. We're not gathering that information for commercial purposes. We're not gathering it to try to bring it on exchange. We're gathering it purely so that our market surveillance colleague can have a comprehensive view of risk. So I'm really grateful that people have taken that, as I say, in the spirit it was intended, and I think it's working well.
High margins and lower trading limits. I mean, obviously you'll get complaints both sides of it. How long do you see that in place? At some point, is that still part of your future? Do you want to go completely back to pre-March event, as you put it, 2022 levels?
Yeah. Well, so we've said that we really want to make sure that we've embedded the lessons of last year. And so I think people do need to expect that margins are going to be higher, because we really want to demonstrate to the whole market that from a risk management perspective, that volatility that we saw is baked into margin levels. So I think when I speak to our clients, they would love margins to be lower, because they say they want to bring more business to the exchange, and they would do that if margins were lower, but they also understand that it's a risk assessment. What I feel confident about is that I think we're now in more of a virtuous circle. Last year we weren't, but this year we're in more of a virtuous circle, which is volumes in nickel are building slowly, but they are building. As volumes build, we can reduce things like our concentration margin. So concentration margin is set to deal with a low liquidity environment. As liquidity builds, concentration margin reduces, people pay less margin, they trade more, and it's a virtuous circle. So slowly but surely, I think we're beginning to reduce those margin levels. We are reducing those margin levels quantitatively, not by sacrificing risk management, but recognizing that volumes are picking up, there's more liquidity, and we can be
I mean, lots of moving parts. Does the cycle take you to the end of the year? Is there a timetable you can attach to it at this point?
Yeah, I mean, it's really driven by market participants more than by me. So the more people who kind of get involved in trading, the quicker that happens. We understand that people will be conservative given what happened last year, but it's been really nice just at this conference talking to delegates and speaking to people who say, last week we started putting nickel positions on again. Yeah, they're going to be small at first, but that does build, and as I say, it becomes a virtuous circle. So I'm hopeful that we can continue to build on that momentum.